Tonight, on The Big Story, families of victims in the gruesome June 22 school shooting in Tacloban are speaking up. Only one of the two suspects has been charged.
Unfair po talaga, ang reaction talagang galit. Kasi 14, wala pa po talaga siyang negligent. Nasa batas daw po yun. Kung hindi po mapapanagot ang bata, ang magulang. Ang magulang po.
Ateneo student-athlete Rene Baterbonia is laid to rest today, but his family still has a lot of unanswered questions about his death. The so-called green box containing tax records of the vice president remains sealed, and now impeachment prosecutors want it opened. Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon. One of the two child suspects in the Tacloban school shooting has been charged with multiple counts of murder, but families of the victims want both perpetrators tried in adult court. Mobile journalist Jas Paredes with tonight's big story.
2 days after the shooting incident at San Jose National High School in Tacloban City, the PNP has filed criminal charges against one of the suspects. In a statement on Wednesday, the Police Regional Office of Eastern Visayas said the complaint against the 15-year-old gunman, earlier identified as alias Rod, was filed Tuesday night. That's after inquest proceedings before the office of the city prosecutor in Tacloban City. The charges include 3 counts of frustrated murder and multiple counts of serious physical injury. Suspects recall that Rod and 14-year-old alias Tash went on a shooting spree on the morning of June 22, leaving 3 fellow students dead and 20 others injured. The suspects are both minors and are now referred to as children in conflict with the law or CIC. Both remain in the custody of the Social Welfare Department's Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth in Tanawan, Leyte. Under the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006, a child aged 15 years or below who commits an offense is exempt from criminal liability. He will only be subjected to intervention or rehabilitation programs to prevent recommission of the offense or crime. Suspects above 15 but under 18 years old could also be exempt, but authorities may hold them liable if they are determined to be aware of their infractions and their related consequences. This is the rationale in charging 15-year-old alias Rod, but not 14-year-old Nash. But for the families of the school shooting victims, not one of the suspects should be spared from punishment. Alias Nash, according to police investigators, fired nearly all of the 40 shots recorded. Alias Rod supposedly only fired 1 shot, as evidenced by the bullets in the gun he used.
Pwede, dahil baka siya pa nga yung nakapatay dyan. Tapos wala. Kung pwede lang. Siya sana yung nandyan. Hindi na yan. Bata, ano ba yan? Ano ba siya nga? Pag-iisip niya nga magsuga niya. Madali ang hustisya para sa mga biktima, sa anak ko, sa mga napatay niya, na mga nasugatan, sa mga estudyante na natrauma.
Unfair po talaga, ang reaction talagang galit. Kasi 14, wala pa po talaga siyang negligent. Nasa batas daw po yun. Kung hindi po mapapanagot ang bata, ang magulang. Ang magulang po. Kasi sa kanila po nanggaling yung natutunan ng bata na paano bumaril. Paano po nakuha ng bata ang baril. Kasi kung tinago po nila yan, hindi po yan makukuha ng bata. Kung talagang sinafety po nila yung mga mga gun po nila.
For DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian, who visited families of the victims in Tacloban on June 24, there will be accountability in this case.
Kanina narinig yung malaking bahagi ng dalamhati ng pamilya ay yung sa usapin ng bigay. Tinanong nila ako kung may assurance ba na yung 14-year-old na assailant ay at large pa ba, na ang worry nila baka parang wala lang. Ang inassure ko sila na yung dalawang suspect or yung dalawang assailant ay nasa kustodiya na ng DSWD. Kami sa DSWD, susundin namin kung ano yung nasa alasuntunin ng batas. Pero nasigundahan nila ng ibang anggulo, yun nga, yung parents, yung responsibility ng mga adults sa bahay na yun, kung bakit may baril na nakakalat, bakit may access yung mga bata sa baril. Clearly, may negligence in that aspect.
For now, police investigators are still gathering and verifying evidence. Part of the probe, how the 2 minor suspects got hold of the guns.
Yung isang baril doon na hindi registered, fake ang serial number. But the mere fact na nagkaroon ng access ang bata sa baril, ang culpability dyan ay nasa kung sino man ang may-ari ng baril.
The initial probe also points to premeditation. The young suspects, according to unverified screenshots of conversations, seem to have planned the attack. The boys have also tested positive for gunpowder residue. There's also the angle of bullying among the many facets of the investigation and exposure to violent online content and games. Kapatid Jazz Paredes, we are One News.
Now over in Negros Occidental, the Education Department in San Carlos City is investigating a stabbing incident involving a grade 9 student. The victim, who attends the Julio Ledesma National High School, earlier informed the teacher about a possible threat from other students. A planned follow-up discussion on the matter did not happen. The victim was eventually attacked outside the school premises after classes were dismissed. The school's division office said the circumstances surrounding the case are being probed, while support is being provided the student and the school community. Enhanced security measures and additional psychosocial interventions are likewise enforced to help ensure learner safety. This latest incident is the fourth school-related violence in just over a week. It also occurred just 2 days after the Tacloban school shooting. On June 16, a grade 8 student stabbed 7 grade 5 pupils with a kitchen knife at a private school in General Trias, Cavite. On June 19, a senior high school student was also stabbed inside campus, also in Cavite. And we have on the show tonight lawyer Josel Bataba-Sige. Attorney Sige once managed to draw a conviction in a case against a minor. Welcome to the big story, Attorney Josel.
Thank you.
Attorney Josel, just as a disclosure, both of us are belong to the towns, the outstanding women in the nation's service. Now, on to our discussion tonight. Just your reaction. We can understand the grief of the victims in the Tacloban shooting, but now they are asking that one of the perpetrators, who is 14 years old, be tried in adult court. Tell us about how this is not possible.
Well, currently, under our legal system, we have an existing law, Republic Act 9344, as amended, that says that the minimum age of criminal responsibility is 15 and below, and above 15, it still is approached in a child restorative manner, but you need to determine discernment. So in the case of those below 15, the criminal responsibility is actually not to be determined, but the accountability is still there. There are still many interventions and diversion programs, strategies, counseling, rehabilitation, custodial treatment that makes the child, even below 15, still accountable.
Okay, so that's clear. But your post took a lot of interest because you mentioned that you were able to convict. Convict is still the word used when it comes to juvenile offenders.
Well, maybe it showed a little bit of emotion from my end because the case I was talking about was in a school setting, and the teacher at that time was also struck by a steel hammer, by a steel pipe coming from a water pump by a student. That was a long time ago. And, well, I had to prove, and the court believed, after all the evidences were laid, that the blow was very fatal. Because when you're struck by a steel bar in your head, you can actually die instantly. But the good thing is that it only hit the lower part of the face, so the teacher had to have facial reconstruction. But the discernment was established, and
that the perpetrator
the
could
minor,
discern,
yes.
the minor could
Yes.
discern what was right and wrong.
Yes, that the minor intended to harm the victim, And so we secured a conviction. However, the resulting judgment was confinement in a penal colony or in a youth welfare or juvenile center.
Not a bahay pag-asa, or is it still termed bahay pag-asa?
Well, at that time, really, during the advent of
What year was this?
that was a long time ago, maybe more than 10 years ago. Maybe the law was just passed, maybe 3 years after it was passed.
Okay, so there was still no bahay pag-asa because that happened in 2013 when the law was
Somewhere
amended.
there, because I know that he was actually committed to a youth center.
So your post is in answer to this clamor now to lower the age of criminal, you say responsibility rather than liability. Is there a difference?
My post was really in answer to the fact that when you commit a crime, regardless of age, when you really viciously thought about doing it, I think you cannot hide from the shield of the law. And I think that 9344 is the same because it's not totally fair to say that you have no accountability. There's really accountability, but we approach it in a more restorative way because we're saying that even a criminal can change,
Right.
over time. And we're thinking that both the victim, in many cases I handle, would be a child, and the offender would also be a child. And children are maybe, you can say, exposed to so many things now because of the digital age, but you cannot outrightly say they're mature enough.
So there is a difference. There should be a difference when you try a minor as compared to an adult.
Exactly.
This is exactly what the law says. But right now, there is a clamor to even get, maybe, I think Senator Robin Padilla wants it lowered to 10 years old. Meron na bang discernment ang 10 years old?
Well, I always want to be evidence-based in many of the things I say. And even this move to lower or maybe amend the law should be evidence-based and should not be emotion-based. So I would have to say that the Philippines is unlike other countries. In other countries, there are really lower ages. No, there are countries na 10, 11.
Yes, I think that
Yeah.
in Wales and England,
Yeah,
10.
and even in ASEAN, there are actually lower ages for criminal responsibility.
Okay.
And my stand is, let us study that. Yes, because we need to be data-driven. I mean, the problem with us Filipinos, we're triggered by one incident. But after that, to me, the biggest problem here is really continuity. Because we're triggered, but the next time around, we don't see the proper implementation and things still go wrong.
I'd like to ask you if you've been to the Bahay Pag-asa centers and how are they? Are they really providing the environment for rehabilitation? And secondly, you mentioned a case where there was a minor who was committed to a rehabilitation center but committed a crime again. If you can refer to that incident, that case as
Yes.
well. So yung
Yes.
unang-una, nakapunta ka na ba sa mga Bahay Pag-asa centers? Anong itsura?
Marami, kasi I served as counselor of a city for 9 years, and gender and development is under my charge. And there's a big difference, actually. I have to be very candid. It depends on who's running it. For welfare centers run by private sector, especially schools, I have to say, in a way, they're doing a good job. I mean, I've seen reformation. In centers
but
that are,
if I may interrupt before you continue, the court will allow a minor to be committed to a privately run Bahay Pag-asa?
there's an accreditation. So a privately run youth center would have to be accredited, especially by the courts. And there's also a local government run, and that's where most of the problems really occur. And that's to your second question.
Okay.
Because in many instances, so my life is really more into prosecuting for rape victims. To this day, I still remember the names of my clients. Half of them are dead. They were raped and killed and brutally violated. And some of the cases were actually perpetrated by minors as well. And there were one or two instances where, I did not dwell on really investigating because I already had a prosecution. But there were one or two stories where the offenders were actually recidivists. In short, repeat offenders.
Right. And they were minors.
Yes, they were.
And they were committed to a juvenile center or Bahay Pag-asa as it is called now because of the law.
Yes, maybe for a petty crime. In my case and in the other experiences, maybe a lower crime.
See, so that is where perhaps the law can be amended or maybe revisited or reviewed when it
Yes.
comes to the establishment of this Bahay Pag-asa. What else do you see as the flaws of the system,
Yes.
attorney?
So if we call these perpetrators, or I have to say CICL in the appropriate words, no, child in conflict with the law, if we call them accountable, then we also have to hold accountable all those who need to implement the law. And who are those? Okay, so of course our policymakers, because they keep on creating laws that are really good, but they don't put a budget to it. Secondly, I know for a fact, I have so many friends.
Or do they even do oversight?
Exactly.
They should.
That's the correct term, oversight. There are so many good laws in the Philippines, but there are no oversight. So I'd like to cite just 3 points now.
Okay.
First, of course, we don't even have enough family courts. So that is a problem with the judiciary. Number 2, we don't have enough social workers. I tried to take...
Walang guidance counselor, apparently pati.
Wala. And for social work, I even tried to take 1 semester of masters in social work because I want to do my rescue on my own. Because as a public official, I cannot rescue without a social worker. So, and
Wala kang matawagang social worker.
wala. And the problem is this, there are even schools I know that are considering on closing because wala na nag-enroll ng social work. So that's the problem. And you have an amendment to the law that says all LGUs, at least provinces and highly urbanized cities, should have a youth welfare center. And there's not enough. And it's just a building. That's the problem. You have buildings, but there are
staff.
nothing.
Like there's supposed to be a house mother, for instance. There's supposed to be a therapist or a psychologist, but we don't have these people.
Yes, and the transformative programs. So kasi even if you house the children in the centers, buong araw manunood na sila ng TV. Kung minsan, halo-halo pa, babae, lalaki. So what do you expect?
So some of the cases that you've tried, at least 2, involved recidivists.
Yes.
Now, let's go back to the case that you posted on Facebook, this minor who struck a teacher. How old was this child at that time?
He was about to turn 17. So, about 15.
Okay, so what is the difference between trying a minor who is above 15 but below 18, right? And a minor below 15?
Yeah, so technically you don't really even try a minor below 15.
Ayun, wala nang trial.
Yes. Because
That's why no case was filed
Yes.
against this child.
Yes, no case.
So
but
what
then
is-
again, there
Okay.
are interventions and there are programs.
So what happens let's say in this particular case in Tacloban, the 14-year-old is now in the custody, I believe, of the DSWD. Who decides what will happen to this child?
Well, normally I have to say, I don't have the full expertise on the law, but as parents patriae, that principle will give the right to the social worker. Especially when it's proven that the parents are not even capable of, disciplining the child. So the social worker in this case has a lot of things to do, of course, facing public outrage and all that.
Right, and the community.
Yes.
Because yesterday, the Attorney Oko was here, who is in charge of that council that was established by the law, mentioned that there was a child who spent 19 years in a bahay pag-asa because the child could no longer go back to the community.
That's exactly the point. So where is the benefit, where is the intention of RA 9344 here? Because RA 9344 is exactly, or was exactly designed for restorative justice, that you reform and you prevent, repeat offense, and that you change the life of a minor.
Yeah. So what, based on what you've seen and being, a child's rights advocate, what recommendations, what amendments or changes do you think need to be done? And how should we approach this?
I think, as in any law in the Philippines, the problem is always weak implementation. This is why it appears that the law is weak, because the implementation of the law is weak.
The law can be sound
Yes.
on paper,
Yes.
pero implementation is another matter. There's one thing I'd like to add also, Attorney Giselle, because we had Congressman Roman Romulo, and he mentioned that there is a provision, a new law, that provides for guidance counselors. Pero obviously, wala. I mean, there's not enough. And that's also one factor, kasi if these boys were bullied, it should have been caught by the school officials, or if there were guidance counselors who have interactions with the students, right? But this is in a perfect situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things we need to do about the law, implement that in a way that the school are also held responsible, because the family and the school would have the first chance to look at these signs. These things that are happening to our children when they become, recidivists and offenders, it does not happen overnight. It happens over years.
Over time.
Over
yeah.
time. So dapat sila yung nakikita. And the problem is, many of our schools are also understaffed, and bullying is also covered by a separate law. And there are also responsibilities by the schools to set
Ang
up.
dami nating batas,
Oo.
pero
Oo.
hindi siya natutupad.
Oo. Kaya importante talaga that we look at that holistic growth of a child. Hindi lang talino.
Okay, you just recently served with the DICT.
Yes.
So I'll ask you, if you're wearing your other hat as a digital person, dapat bang pagbawalan na tong mga minors na magkaroon ng social media accounts?
Below 15, yes.
You are for it?
Yes, I am for it, because I believe in the scientific explanation also that our brain is trying to still form from 0 to 15. Kaya medyo concerned din ako,
So
lowering 15.
yung edad na yan na
15.
15, as the law says also in the age of criminal responsibility.
May scientific yan na
Ano yung
basis.
scientific basis?
Hindi yun. Yung 0 to 15, we were all born with an unfinished brain. So 1 to 7 is very crucial. So as a baby, lahat ng sinasabi mo pumapasok. 7 to 15 is adolescent. Mas malala. Kasi things are changing in the body. So they have to
Tama.
grapple with it.
Wala pang batas niyan. Di gagawa na naman tayong batas na hindi rin mai-implement.
The
Paano ba
15,
yan?
yeah. So, I don't know, because 15 now is becoming like a level for banning digital access. Oo. Kasi ang ano dyan, Mrs., is really the fact that as children, they need to play. Play is
Right.
important,
Yeah.
not play with your gadget.
Yes.
Kasi
yes.
wala ka,
nang nangyayari.
it's unreal eh. The
Yeah.
gadget is unreal. The world inside is unreal.
But there are no bills yet pending on that.
Yeah, and I would have to say, okay, pagbawalan ng gadget,
Pagbawalan nino ng magulang.
Oo, pero what,
And also the platforms, no?
maybe it's a policy, maybe the platform, yes.
Yeah.
But I would have to qualify what I said, no, lest I be, misinterpreted. Below 15, pwedeng gadget for learning. So supervised. It's part of the tool when you play.
But obviously, there's been a breakdown in families.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. To what would you attribute this breakdown? Madami, no? Pero sige nga, ano yung based on
factor.
what you've seen in your particular cases? Like sabi mo, kulang ang family court. Tama?
Yeah.
That's now on the, well, we have to call out the judiciary
Yeah.
there. What is needed to be able to form more family courts?
I think the sheer number of, courts that we need, one, kulang, hindi lang family court yung kulang. Kahit
Yung expertise
yung mga
siguro.
children expert na mga police, mga DSWD, lahat yan. Even LGUs need to also create their own interventions through ordinances. Kulang din yan, no? So it's a whole community that is needed to raise a child.
So we have been really, we've failed our children. Can you say that?
I have to say that in many ways. Yes, we've failed our children.
Sila pa naman ang pag-asa ng sila ang kinabukasan.
Yeah. And I have here a formula that
Okay.
I apply
Okay.
in many of the things I advocate. Many of our people don't really realize that policies are important. Ngayon, pinag-uusapan natin yung 9344. Bukas hindi na naman natin yan pag-uusapan, di ba? So policies are important. That's why I feel like we need to have good policy makers. But because policies shape mindset. Okay, mindset shape culture. So kailangan yung mindset din natin magaling kasi ito yung kultura natin. And culture shape systems. Whatever systems we have now, which you say is broken, it's actually a product of our culture. And system shape governments. And governments shape citizens. Kasi sumusunod tayo sa gobyerno. And citizens shape leaders. Tayo yung pumipili ng ating leaders. And leaders shape policies.
Policy.
So it's a vicious cycle.
Because we elect the wrong leaders.
Because
Can you, from that incident in Tacloban, can you trace it all the way
yes,
to
because
the wrong
it's
policy?
it's all there, mindset, culture, systems. As a lawyer, I would always have to say, policy need to be sound, and because that's a pillar of any society, but it has to be implemented strategically.
That's why you also welcome this debate, this
Yes.
sudden this resurgence of interest, because it will lead to, well, hopefully better policy and
Yeah.
hopefully uncovering the true leaders and the wrong ones.
Yeah, I have a slightly different
Okay.
way of approaching it.
All right.
The determination of discernment. Although it's still the same as responsibility. Ang iniisip ko kasi, Mrs. is 15 above to below 17, the court can determine discernment. I would like, and I trust the court more, I would like the court to also determine discernment below 15.
Okay. That's the amendment you would like.
Oo.
Right now, it's the social worker that determines the discernment, right?
Hindi nga dinidetermine kasi below 15.
Ah.
So kaya lang, when you already subject below 15, in
Pero
that determination
that
of
discernment in a way is part of the evaluation of the social worker, right?
Yes, as part of the evaluation
But you're
of the
already
social worker.
saying that this child, minor, he or she, is too young to have
Yes.
discernment. But you would like the court to determine it.
Yeah. Parang kaya lang, some people are saying, when you start to determine discernment on the part of children below 15, you're already trying to find whether there's criminal responsibility or not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There's many ways to kill the cat. But ang iniisip ko kasi is the
Kulang
courts,
kasi ang capability
Yes.
sa DSWD.
hindi tsaka because our children now are more exposed. You said I'm from the DICT. So, who would know the difference between a 14 and a 15 in terms of discernment? Ang iniisip ko lang kasi,
So,
sa batas mas fair. Sa batas mas fair.
So, possible amendment ito.
Maybe. Because in
Or sa IRR lang yan ilalagay. But it's practically
it's
an
gonna
amendment.
take a lot of things. But you know, the court, for me, it's one of the strongest foundation of our society. There are even cases where even above 15, 17, or 18, talagang hindi exculpate naman ng court. Kasi wala talagang discernment. So makikita nila talaga na nagkamali lang. Pero meron ding kaka-16 lang, pero talagang pinanish ng court, no? Dahil sobra ang
So,
discernment.
among the three branches of government, you would trust the courts?
Yes, because it's evidence-based. It's evidence-based. You cannot use your opinion. You have to use the law.
We thank you for your time and your advocacy. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Attorney Josel Batapa Sige. Thank you. You're watching The Big Story in One News, and coming up is the rest of this statement from Senator Chis Escudero about receiving kickbacks.
Hindi totoo yan dahil magagalit kami ni congressman ko. Hindi ako nagulat pero tahasan kong sasabihin hindi totoo yan dahil magagalit kami ni congressman ko sa mahabang panahon at marami nakakalam niyan at imposibleng mangyari yan.
In his podcast, Senator Chis Escudero denied receiving kickbacks in suitcases from Zaldico. Escudero said he and the fugitive ex-congressman had been at odds for years and that his accusers got his address wrong. And now moving on to another story, Rene Baterbonia, one of two Ateneo student athletes who drowned during their team building activity in Dipaculao, Aurora on June 8th, was finally laid to rest in his hometown of Talacogon, Agusan del Sur.
Bangun, please! Bangun! Please, bangun! Kami ba po, please? Kami ba?
Ayaw kayo makatugan! Hindi ka kayo stop ko! Please, ayaw makatugan! Ayaw kayo makatugan! Jesse, ingatok nila ka na ako doon! May pasaylo! Tungod na kayo pamuli kita! Di sila mga pasaylo ka na ito!
This was the plea of Rene's mother, Rovelyn, at the Talacogon Memorial Park. Bobet was given the honor of being the first ever son of the town to be buried in the said cemetery. Aside from family, former teammates and supporters, Senator Robin Padilla and his sibling Bibi Gandanghari joined the funeral. The family is set to discuss their next plan of action, but Baterbonia supporters maintain their call for justice.
Nasin peace unta matagaan og justisyang pagkamatay ni Kuya Rene, looy pud ba.
Dapat yung tagaan siyang justisya kay kanang ang iyang mga pangarap gani isir mo na puto lang yung pangarap sa iyang pamilya mo nang.
At the CIDG, Ateneo de Manila University, President Father Bobby Yap finally presented himself to the investigation. On Thursday, the PNP CIDG will wrap up its probe on the drowning incident, but they still invited other personalities over, including Manny V. Pangilinan, whose MVP Sports Foundation earlier clarified that the support granted to Ateneo sports programs were limited to financial. After this, CIDG will submit the result of its investigation on Friday, June 26.
Basta we have a case and it's up to the prosecution to file case.
Against how many persons?
We're accounting about more or less about 11 or 10.
This investigation has been going on for the last 2 weeks. We've interviewed over almost 100 people. We have may siguro 1,200 na pahina ng testimonya galing sa mga nandoon.
Today marks the 5th death anniversary of former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III. Family members, former cabinet officials, and supporters gathered at the Manila Memorial Park in Parañaque for a commemorative mass. Aquino, who served as the nation's 15th president from 2010 to 2016, passed away on June 24, 2021 due to renal disease. Allies today hailed his legacy, highlighting his strict anti-corruption drive under the Daang Matuwid slogan. It was under Pinoy's administration that the country scored a historic legal victory against China over the West Philippine Sea. Tomorrow, the pre-trial conference for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment is supposed to end. But the prosecution and defense are swamped by evidence still for marking. As that task unfolds, prosecutors now want to open that controversial box containing the tax records of the VP and her husband. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes with a report.
Then when will be the right time to see the contents of this box?
This box lead House Prosecutor Jervy Luis referred to contains tax records of Vice President Sara Duterte. The sealed item also has BIR documents of the VP's husband, Attorney Man Scarpio. The prosecution intends to use the box's content to prove the Vice President's unexplained wealth.
So that was transmitted, that particular BIR box was transmitted to the Senate na nakasil, na hindi pa yun nakita ng members of the Justice Committee. So since we are in the marking of exhibits, this is the proper stage na kailangan na rin siguro buksan yan para magkaroon na ng inventory of the contents of that particular BIR box.
Madam Chair,
The so-called BIR Green Box was first submitted to the House of Representatives while it was discussing whether or not to impeach Duterte a second time. But the box was not opened then due to questions about confidentiality. But what if the defense team agrees to open it before impeachment trial proper?
Yes, if possible. If feasible, if possible, kung makahabol pa, bago matapos talaga yung pre-trial at bago mag-issue ng pre-trial order para makita na, para tapos na, para malaman na rin ng both parties kung gagamitin nila yung mga contents, yung mga documents na nandyan sa box na yan.
The Vice President's camp vows to study the suggestion.
The defense, is composed of reasonable lawyers. So lahat naman po hindi naman po tayo magiging cause of any delay or magbablock ng kung ano man kung naayon naman sa batas.
According to Clerk of Court Attorney Renato Bantug, only the impeachment court can decide on the prosecution's team's manifestation to open the BIR box.
It's something that I would need to discuss with the Senate President, and I'm sure he would also consult the other members of the Senate on how to best address that issue of that box. They will decide before the convening or they will wait for the convening is an open question right now.
Until the impeachment court decides on it,
Yes.
it's not a part of the evidence.
Not yet, not yet, not yet.
If the green box is not marked as evidence this week, it can still be unsealed during trial. What all parties want now: get a move on with pre-trial, which order must be released by Thursday, June 25.
I will pray. No, I'm hoping matapos bukas. Worst case, we finish on Friday. Sabi ko kanina, ang ano ko sana is that at least sana ma-save ko yung Saturday for housekeeping, no? Meaning court management matters, because there are also some other matters that would need the attention of the impeachment court, aside from the pre-trial conference.
Once the impeachment pre-trial order is out, both prosecution and defense will be given 3 days to comment. But can the VP Duterte trial open on the first week of next month?
At this point, July 6 as the start of the trial proper is not yet an impossibility. Tight, but not impossible.
And so, the marking of evidence continues. Aside from the opening of the box containing tax records, prosecutors are requesting 3 additional pre-trial measures: use of both Filipino and English during proceedings, require the advanced disclosure of witnesses, and allow both public and private prosecutors to examine witnesses during the historic trial of Sara Duterte. Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Now overseas, the peace agreement between the United States and Iran is showing some cracks. Both nations are publicly contradicting each other on core issues just days after signing the Islamabad Memorandum. The MOU is the interim agreement supposed to end the Gulf War on June 17. On nuclear inspection, for instance, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed being granted the highest level of facilities monitoring on top of the International Atomic Energy Agency weapons inspectors being allowed entry again to Iran's nuclear sites. But according to Iran, this was not in the agreement. As to the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, control of the critical maritime choke point remains heavily contested. This is the big story on One News. There's another storm brewing outside the Philippines, even as one typhoon is still in our vicinity. The weather report when we return. Stay tuned.
pwede. Dahil baka siya pa nga yung nakapatay dyan. Tapos wala lang, wala. Kung pwede lang. Siya sana yung nandyan. Hindi na yan. Bata, ano ba yan? Ano ba siya nga? Pag-iisip niya, madali ang hustisya para sa mga biktima, sa anak ko, sa mga napatay niya, na mga nasugatan, sa mga estudyante na natrauma.
Unfair po talaga, ang reaction talagang galit. Kasi 14, wala pa po talaga siyang negligent. Nasa batas daw po yun. Kung hindi po mapapanagot ang bata, ang magulang. Ang magulang po. Kasi sa kanila po nanggaling yung natutunan ng bata na paano bumaril. Paano po nakuha ng bata ang baril. Kasi kung tinago po nila yan, hindi po yan makukuha ng bata. Kung talagang sinafety po nila yung mga ano nila, mga gun po nila.
More headlines for you this midweek on The Big Story. Here is mobile journalist Arles de los Santos for a quick rundown.
Tropical storm Higos is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility on Thursday, June 25, and will be given the local name Gardo once in. It was last tracked 1,975 kilometers east of central Luzon with maximum sustained winds of 65 kilometers per hour. For now, Higos is expected to remain far from land and is not seen to directly affect local weather and sea conditions. However, Pag-asa is not ruling out the new weather disturbance's further intensification into a severe tropical storm. As for Typhoon Francisco, it continues to weaken as it moves north of Batanes. It was last tracked 320 kilometers east-northeast of Itbayat with maximum sustained winds of 130 kilometers per hour. Signal number 1 is still up over Batanes and parts of northeastern Cagayan, including the Babuyan Islands. Pag-asa said Francisco is bringing heavy rains to Batanes and Cagayan, while the southwest monsoon continues to trigger heavy rainfall over Zambales, Bataan, Occidental Mindoro, Palawan, and Antique. In sports, the Philippine Olympic Committee has officially suspended the Philippine National Volleyball Federation. POC President Bambol Tolentino said the executive board unanimously approved the move, following a similar sanction imposed by the International Volleyball Federation or FIVB last May. The FIVB cited governance issues and alleged rule violations now under review by its ethics panel. The Philippine Sports Commission had also earlier halted funding for the federation over governance and compliance concerns. While the suspension remains in place, the federation cannot take part in POC activities, including its General Assembly. In corporate news, Meralco and its power generation arm, Meralco Power Gen, have signed an agreement with Vietnamese firm Vinenergo. The partnership could unlock up to 25 gigawatts of renewable energy and energy storage capacity. The companies are also exploring projects that could deliver up to 5,000 megawatts of round-the-clock power. The agreement also opens the door for possible collaboration on electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
The Foreign Affairs Department has once again rejected the Chinese Embassy's statement questioning the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Award. The decision was issued by a tribunal constituted under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, to which both Manila and Beijing are parties. The DFA says the award is neither illegal nor void and remains final and binding. The Chinese embassy, however, pushed back. It described the ruling as a, quote, political manipulation disguised in legal garb. Beijing does not recognize nor accept the award, maintaining that the tribunal has no jurisdiction. In other news, a critical hurdle facing young Filipino students and teachers returns to the spotlight as the new school year begins. We have this report from mobile journalist Daniel Dayao.
As Filipino students return to school this June, so does the challenge that continuously affects many Filipino learners today: period poverty. According to the World Bank, 8% of girls in the Philippines have missed schools because of menstruation. And beyond access to menstrual products, advocates say the challenge also include gaps in sanitation facilities, persisting stigma surrounding menstrual health, and limited access to reliable information.
This conversation, I think, is very relevant today because it's not just period poverty that we're looking at. Girls and boys should be able to tell their family, ask their parents or a trusted adult or guardian, and it goes the same for schools. There should also be a support system that will create that safe environment and provide reliable information to our kids.
To help address the issue, Plan International Pilipinas launched Oki Period Tracker app, a free digital platform providing menstrual health education and period tracking tools designed specifically for adolescents.
Oki is a safe, private, and trusted space, and our girl and youth leaders say that they can learn about puberty, they can learn about their health, about their well-being without being afraid of being judged or embarrassed, no?
Since its launch in 2023, the app has reached 200,000 registered users, with more than 20% coming from the Bangsamoro region. Users can track their menstrual cycles, access age-appropriate information via encyclopedia, and find adolescent-friendly services through Help Center and Service Directory. The organization highlights how communities today seek for a more accessible health information.
The communities there, women and youth organizations are actually showing strong demand for adolescent-friendly information. We really include not just the girls, we include boys, we include their teachers. As girls need accurate information to understand and manage their periods confidently, boys also need education so that they can become allies rather than contributors to stigma.
And for students without smartphones or internet connection, the organization is also working with schools, ensuring that information reaches the students on the ground.
We're training the teachers so that the teachers themselves could share the app, could share the information within the app to their students regardless of whether they have a cell phone or not.
As the initiative continues to expand, advocates hope tools like Oki can help bridge poverty, challenge systemic barriers, and normalize conversations about menstruation. Kapatid mo ba Journal Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
And before we go, we take you to the city of San Juan and its tradition that involves water. Lots of it. Our big picture tonight, the annual Wata Wata Festival, which celebrates the feast of St. John the Baptist. This year, around 15,000 people took part in the traditional water dousing at the Basaan Zone along Pinaglabanan Street. San Juan City deployed 36 fire trucks for the event. Some 475 police personnel were also on hand to keep the celebration orderly and safe. Amid light rain, which made the event extra special, festival goers enjoyed float parades, live performances, and of course, getting soaked for hours. And those are the big stories this midweek, June 24. I'm Ces Orenia Drilon. Kapatid, we are One News, your side, all the time. Good night.